2077, check out some Series X gameplay or its latest trailer. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.